time to begin. Here we are with chapter 17 of part 2 from the book Ask and It Is Given. This is one of my absolute favorite chapters, and it is a technique that Abraham talks about a lot, and it is called the focus wheel process. I absolutely love it because the focus wheel process takes you from wherever you are and helps you to raise your energy and bring it up to the top of the emotional scale right over here. And let's go through what Abraham says about it. When to use this process? When you realize that your current vibrational point of attraction is not where you want it to be. When you are aware that you're feeling negative emotion about something that is important to you and you want to find a way of feeling positive emotion. And when something has just happened that is not to your liking and you want to think about it while it is on your mind and change your point of attraction so that it does not happen again, and when you are reaching for a feeling of relief. Abraham recommends that we use this process when we are anywhere between boredom, which Abraham says is 8, and 17, which is anger. So this is not a process to do when you're right at the bottom of the emotional scale over here, which is a place of depression, despair, feeling no hope. That's not where you can find success with this process. It is not that you will not find success, it's just much harder to get the focus wheel started when you're over here. So anger is somewhere over here. Worry is right at the middle of the emotional scale, and anger is somewhere here in between worry. So it's right over here in the middle, and above it is revenge. And then somewhere over here is hope and satisfaction, and right at the top of the emotional scale is joy. So what Abraham is saying is, do this process when you're kind of over here, a little bit above worry, which is where boredom is. Boredom means nothing's happening, but I'm not upset. I'm not too upset about it. I'm not satisfied either. I want things to change, but I'm not kicking up a fuss about it. That's where boredom is. So anywhere from boredom to anger, in this range is where Abraham recommends that we do this process. Okay. So, through exposure to life experiences, people often arrive at beliefs that hold them in a vibrational pattern that disallows the very thing that they're asking for. And Abraham wants to remind us that the only reason anything has manifested that you don't like is because you have given it your attention for enough time to get momentum going. What is momentum? Momentum is the magnetic power of your emotion. And why is that important? Why do we look at thoughts? Well, because when you change your thought, you can feel a different emotion. And when you feel a different emotion, your vibration changes. And that's why vibration, thought, and emotion are all linked up together. Action comes later because you have to think about it, feel the need to act, and that's when you end up taking action. Okay, so Abraham then says something that I think is really important to understand, and that is, someone will say to us, but Abraham, I cannot ignore this, for it is true. And Abraham says in response, it is only true because someone has made it true by giving their attention to it. And that really is at the basis of understanding law of attraction. And that is why we can change anything and everything that we want to change. Because if it is true only because someone has given it attention, then it doesn't have to be true for you unless you too end up giving it your attention. It's all about attention. What is attention? Attention is about thinking about it, focusing there, feeling about it, telling other people about it, talking to yourself in your head about it. All of that is about giving it attention. All right, so, and then Abraham says something that I really like. there are many things that are true that you do desire, and there are many things that are true that you do not desire. It is our encouragement that you give your attention to the things that you do desire and make those wonderful things the truth of your life experience. So there are many things that are true, that are helpful, that are positive, and similarly there are many things that are true that are not positive. So where should we put our attention? Well, and I get into these discussions with people where they want to change the world. They want to make the world a better place for themselves as well as a lot of other people. And the way they do it is by getting into groups and fighting against something. And fighting against something will invariably increase the negative vibration surrounding it. So, for example, those people who want to protect the earth, they're going about it the wrong way. They would have so much more power if they started appreciating nature than if they banded together because they want to eliminate big companies who are manufacturing food of all various types and adding chemicals to food. You don't have to push against those companies, because you need to understand that if you are high on the emotional scale, you will never feel the resonance to ingest, to use or consume any of those products. When you're high on the emotional scale, you will not feel good eating those things. And so you never have to worry about, you don't have to eliminate those things. All you have to do is you have to understand that if other people are finding it, or if you are finding it, then you are a vibrational match to that. And so you don't need to fight against it, because if you eliminate one thing, something else will crop up, because of the fact that if someone is low on the emotional scale, they are pulling out of the field of all possibilities all sorts of things. And this is why when mankind develops a cure for one deadly disease, something else comes up, because believe it or not, there is an asking for that. Because there are people who are on a low vibration who are asking for those things, not because they want them or because they deserve them, but because they are sending a vibration out which is attracting those things to them. And if they would just stop sending that vibration out, then everything would change for them. Okay, so your heightened negative emotion is always highlighting a good opportunity to shift your energy on a subject. And Abraham recommends that you spend 15 or 20 minutes with this process anytime you feel strong negative emotion about something that has happened. This process, where you make a general statement that matches your desire. So what is that? First of all, you're keenly aware of where you are. So what I've done is, when I really understood what the focus wheel process was, I devised a process based on the focus wheel process, and I call that the 4-step process, because it mimics the focus wheel, but it breaks it down into smaller pieces that are way easier for us to be able to do without Abraham's help. And I first put it in this book, The Prosperity Puzzle, and then later on it became part of this book, and it is something that I teach all the time. But let's do it this way first, and then if there's time left over, I will share the way I teach how to do it as well. Okay. So this process, where you make a general statement that matches your desire. In other words, you're reaching for a match. And how do you know that you found one? Because you feel a sense of relief. And so basically, if you understand the focus wheel process, the best way to understand it is that it is like a chain reaction. You think a thought that is just a little bit more positive than where you are. Not a big jump up the emotional scale, just a little bit more positive than where you are on the emotional scale. So if you're over here, you pick a thought that's just a little bit better. And then that thought now, because it's higher up on the emotional scale, therefore it allows you to attract a thought or start thinking a thought that is further up the scale. And then because you're further up the scale, that means that now you can attract another thought that's even further up. And so that's why it's a chain reaction that goes up the emotional scale. And if you focus, and the important thing with doing the focus wheel is, Fires, can you grab Stella, please? Sorry. So the important thing is to do the focus wheel in very small steps. And the next thing is to make statements in the focus group that actually feel true enough that you can feel good when you say them. Because if you say a statement and it does not feel good inside you, and there's a little voice that comes on inside your head that says, that's not true, or it hasn't been like that, or I don't know if it will ever get better. If those kinds of thoughts come up, that means that you're trying to make too big a jump. That is how you tell whether or not you're on the right you're going in the right direction on the emotional scale. Because if those thoughts that I just shared with you come up, that actually means that you're not going up, but you're actually going down the emotional scale. So if that happens, stop and start all over again. And the other thing I want to say to you is, if you're trying to do the focus wheel and it's just not happening, leave it alone. Don't ever try to force yourself to sit down and do a focus wheel, because forcing is going against the current. And that's not, when you go up the emotional scale, you're not going against the current, you're going with the current. So if you're fighting the current, that means you're going downwards. And the only way you can really tell is by feeling it. I've said this sentence, now I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to feel how that feels inside. How do I feel when I say this? And a really good way of doing it is to say it out aloud, because when you say it out aloud, it magnifies it. It magnifies the impact that of the emotion that you will feel as a response to saying the words. And you need to sometimes magnify how it feels, because we get so used to, sometimes a lot of us, and most certainly myself, we become out of touch with our feelings because we have been suppressing our feelings for a long time. We push things away. We get past, right? We go forward. We don't deal with our emotions. And that's why we forget how to tell the difference in whether we are going up or whether we are just brushing it under the carpet and moving on. Because if you keep brushing stuff under the carpet, one day it becomes a huge big lump that you cannot avoid. And then if you step on it, it spews dirt all over the place, right? Okay. So, moving forward. Okay, so that's what Abraham is saying here on page 259. Once you find it, and if you can focus there for a little bit, even amplify it or exaggerate it or remember something related to it, that is to say, if you can manage, once you find that a gentle, comforting statement, to stay there for at least 17 seconds so that you allow another thought to join it, it will then give impetus to your newly stated belief. So remember, first of all, that a belief is just a thought. And then remember that 17 seconds. So Abraham teaches us that 16 seconds is enough to get momentum started to the extent that you are now attracting the next thought. And if you keep attracting the next thought and the next emotion, you will eventually get into a stage where you've created enough momentum that the thing that you want will start becoming physical. So it will transition from being non-physical to being physical if you can stay with the positive thought for long enough. And the same thing happens on the negative side. If you stay on the negative side long enough, then you will end up manifesting the things that you don't want. So when you're not feeling good, stop and shift your attention to something else, because you understand that if you stop momentum when it first gets going, it's much easier to stop it than when momentum is at its peak. And that's the analogy that Abraham uses when they talk about the car rolling down the hill. If you push a car and it starts rolling down the hill, it is way harder to stop it than if you nudge it gently and then stop it. And you move forward in front of it and you stop it before it starts its journey. So momentum is the thing that actually ends up in the manifestation. Okay, so now Abraham is taking us through a focus wheel process. And so here's how we are going to do this. We're going to go through the example that Abraham has given here. And as I feel the need to interject from my own experience, I will share with you what I feel. Okay, so Abraham says, if you feel that I feel fat, that's the statement Abraham has made, and I want to feel slender. So one is where you are, a statement of where you are, which is I feel fat. And then number two is the statement of where you want to go, which is I want to feel slender. And you can do that with anything. So I feel poor. What I really want is I want to feel prosperous. So one of them is the starting point of the focus wheel, whereas the second one is the end point. That's what you want to accomplish. I feel unloved and I want to feel loved. I feel deceived. I want to feel honored. I feel ill and I want to feel well. I feel powerless and I want to feel my power. Next, try to write statements around the outside edge. So what Abraham says is, this is, you start the focus wheel. They call it a focus wheel because it looks like a wheel the way Abraham teaches it, because in the center is the statement of where you are now, and on the periphery or on the top of the page is the statement of where you're going. And then you start writing statements around the circle. So draw a circle on a piece of paper with an inner circle that has your starting point or your now reality. And then on the top of the page is your end result. And then you start writing statements. Start wherever you want on the circle. It doesn't matter where you start, but you write your first statement. And then you write another one and another one and another one. Usually if you write 12 to 15 statements going around the circle, by the time you get to the end of it, by the time you get to number 12 or number 15, you have accomplished enough vibrational movement that you would have gone up the emotional scale to a new place, a better place. And from a better place, you will attract better outcomes. Okay, so that's what Abraham is saying. Now try to write statements around the outside edge of your large circle that match what it is that you do want. When you find a statement that is close enough match, you will know it because you will feel it. In other words, you will feel whenever your statement does not match and throws you off the wheel. So think of it like a merry-go-round. You want to get on this merry-go-round, and the merry-go-round spirals and goes up the emotional scale. In order to get on the merry-go-round, you have to come up to speed with it. So you have to run with the merry-go-round, and then eventually you'll have enough speed so that now you can jump on it. And that's what the focus wheel process is all about. We start, we don't have momentum, and we are low on the emotional scale. But by saying the things that we are going to say, which we are going to write on the outside of the circle, those things that we say add enough momentum that eventually your speed increases and now you're on the merry-go-round. Okay. The reason the focus wheel process is so effective is because the statements you're writing are those that you have deliberately chosen. So that's what being a deliberate creator is all about. It is about saying that I'm not going to be on autopilot. I am going to take my mind off autopilot and I'm going to decide what I want to think, right? Because what happened to us is that long ago we stopped paying attention to how we were thinking our thoughts. And we just let that rudder or that steering wheel go. And if you leave the steering wheel, but you're still pushing on the accelerator, then that car is going to go wherever the car wants to go, right? So making deliberate statement means that you're going to put both your hands on the steering wheel and you're going to tell the car where you want it to go. Okay. Whenever you make a general statement, you are more likely to be pure in your thought. And that is important to know. It is important if you look at the emotional scale. If you are below the worry line in this area, you are far better off to make general statements than to become specific about it. For example, when you say, I want to feel slender, in Abraham's example, don't go and say, and I want a 24-inch waist, or I want to lose so many pounds, because that is becoming specific. But if you say, I want to enjoy the way I look, I want to feel good and healthy in my body, those are general statements. Okay, so you see how being specific is different from being general? All right, excellent. So let us say that you're preparing to do this process and you know that your intention is to eventually write, I feel good about my body, or my knee is well. But if you begin there, if the first little phrase you write is, I feel good about my body, you can tell by the way you feel that you're very far away from being there. So it's too specific, right? So you have to start in a more general place. And Abraham says it will take trial and error. And yes, it does take trial and error. But we can make the process easier. Okay, so I believe that the universe matches our vibration. You absolutely believe that. And so that's a good general statement to use. And then Abraham says, then you make a statement such as, this physical body has been very good for me. That's another really general statement. And hopefully a lot of us can agree with it. It feels true, right? Because our bodies have served us. So if something feels like it's untrue, that's when you are going too specific too soon and it's time to leave it alone. Okay, and so let us continue to add power to this process of the focus wheel. As you find thoughts that feel good, continue writing them around the perimeter of your larger circle. Okay, so since your thoughts are sometimes already spinning with such momentum that even though you want to change them, you cannot find a place to jump onto the focus wheel, then the game is all about finding a thought that is close enough that will allow you to get started. It's like a ball of twine that if it's all jumbled up, you need to find an end. And once you grab onto an end, then you can start figuring it out. And that's how doing a focus wheel is all about. Sometimes when you pull that twine, it makes the knot faster, right? So then you have to loosen it again. So it is trial and error, but if you practice it a couple of times, it becomes a lot easier. So then Abraham suggests saying, I can be slender again. My sisters are slender and beautiful. I'll find something that will work for me. So what that means is it's working for them. That's okay. Um, and if you go too far, then you'll feel it, right? So if you start comparing yourself, that doesn't feel good. You have to compare. If you compare yourself, you have to compare yourself in a manner that feels favorable. Okay. Okay. I'll find something that will work for me. While this thought feels a little bit better than the previous one, it still does not feel good. You have tried many things, but you believe that you have found nothing that works for you. So this thought just points out your past failures. This thought throws you off into the bushes. So it's not a thought that gets you onto the focus wheel. And neither does the thought of comparison. Okay. I know that there are others who have been where I am now, who have found a way that works for them. With this thought, you may feel a sensation of relief because it feels a little bit better, because now you're saying, okay, there are probably other people who were where I am today, and if they could do it, I can do it too. Okay, so let's go through what Abraham has written as a focus wheel. I don't have to do all of this today. That is another one that sticks. Write it at the 1 o'clock position. I'll find a diet that works. And that's off into the bushes, Abraham says. I don't feel good in my clothes. Off into the bushes. Because these things are pointing you towards things that have not worked. My body will feel more refreshed. That sticks. Okay, so it will be fun to buy some new clothes. That one sticks. My body will feel more refreshed. That one sticks. New ideas will come to me. Now Abraham says you're rolling with it. I already know some things that will help. Yes, that feels better, right? I like taking control of my own experience, and that sticks. I'm looking forward to making this change. That sticks. I like feeling good. I like feeling good in my body. I feel good about my body. And when you reach that point where you are able to say, I feel good in my body, now you are flying high. You're on the focus wheel and it's going faster and you're up high on the emotional scale. So Abraham says, all your point of power is in the present, because even though you may be thinking about the past or you may be imagining the future, but you're doing it now. And if you're doing it now, then that vibration is, you're sending that vibration out in your now. And the thing to remember is whatever you're doing in your now is what is creating your future. And that's why it's important to pay attention to how you're feeling in your now. Okay. The focus wheel, Abraham says, is the best tool that we have found to help you bridge a belief so that it matches your desire. So just begin by trying to find a phrase that will let you on the wheel. And then Abraham says, the better it feels, the better it gets. We have not solved anything. In other words, nothing has really changed when you do the focus wheel. Nothing has changed in your now reality, but you've laid the foundation for a better future, and that is important to understand. And then Abraham goes back to the same example. Whether it is a castle or a button, if you're using it as your object of attention, it is summoning life force, and it's doing that right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here and I'm going to show you an easier way to do the 4-step process. And I do that, so I changed the focus wheel process and I converted it into the 4-step process because it is more systematic than the way Abraham explains to us that we should do the focus wheel. And here's how the 4-step process goes. The first 2 steps are the same. I know where I am, which is I don't like where I am, and I know where I want to go. So step 1, I know where I am. Step 2, I know where I want to go. Step 3 is soothing yourself. Soothing yourself means reducing negative momentum and making yourself feel better about where you are. And then step 4 is about using the appreciation tool to increasing positive momentum. So in Abraham's example of weight loss, I would say, okay, so I feel fat. What I want to feel slender. And now start soothing yourself. It's okay that this has happened. It took time for this to happen, and with time, I will find a solution. I know other people have done it, and I can find examples of other people who were in my sort of a situation and they were able to do it. Besides, I trust that the universe has the resources to bring me the things that will suit me. And my body is different now, so I want to look for things that are suitable for my body just now. And I've done it in the past. At least I can say that I've done it in the past, so there's no reason I cannot find a way to do it in the future or start doing it now. And I know that when I feel that it's important enough, I will do it. So this is how you feel. You make yourself feel better about where you are. It's okay where I am. Where I am is okay, and I'm going to find a way to improve the situation. And then step 4 is about increasing positive momentum with using the 16-second or 17-second rule that Abraham teaches. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to increase positive momentum using the same subject. You can generate positive momentum by completely getting off the subject. So if I leave that where it is, soothed, feeling a little bit better, and now I start thinking about something that I really enjoy thinking about, that's going to take me even higher on the emotional scale, and it's going to increase my positive momentum so that what I want, which is the weight loss, becomes a bigger possibility for me, because now I am higher up on the emotional scale. Not only am I higher up, but I am higher up with momentum. And that is what makes the difference towards getting closer to a positive manifestation. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. I hope that you enjoyed this process, and I hope that you will try doing the focus wheel for yourself. I think I have some examples either on my website or even on my YouTube, and so I'll try and find those links to those and I'll post them for you. All right, so have a fabulous rest of the evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.